hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The Word on Wednesday. We've got a slightly different format for you this week, and we've got a really special guest with us. We've got Dez Johnston, or should I say the Reverend Dez Johnston. Dez, you don't look like a minister, but you are one, aren't you?
Allegedly, I'm a Baptist minister, so I don't know if that counts for you guys, but I am a rev.
Totally does count.
Yeah.
And Dez is a brilliant guy, and he is the director at Alpha Scotland. Dez, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm an ex-drug addict bouncer who found Jesus and had my life miraculously transformed on Alpha. There you go. I'm married. I've got a couple of kids. We live in Kirkintilloch, just outside of Glasgow, and it's my great pleasure to head up Alpha in Scotland. And just kind of all that entails. So helping churches, supporting churches, and just trying to see people ask the biggest questions in life. It's the best job ever, really.
Fantastic. Yeah, we at Martin's, we've done Alpha, I think, maybe 13, 14 times since Tommy's been here, and it's just been brilliant each and every time. But obviously, your role has changed a lot within the last year. How have you found things since going into lockdown last March? Changed?
Yeah, it's crazy actually. So Alpha Online didn't exist until the 23rd of March when we went into lockdown. You know, it had never been something we'd really thought about. Nicky Gumbel himself actually had kind of said that's never going to work. Alpha's about having a meal and sitting together. And then it was like, well, we've got this opportunity to change and try things. And we've just seen that explode across the UK, across the globe. But in Scotland, we had just under 400 online courses run last year, which is just incredible. You know, we had Central Church in Edinburgh run 26 courses over the summer, which is just phenomenal. So that's been amazingly exciting. But we've had to really rethink the way that we do everything, and especially, you know, I've got a young family, so church for us looks very different now because it's quite hard to enjoy worship when, you know, the wee one's screaming. You know, my daughter's trying to watch Paw Patrol. My wife's got a beautiful singing voice, and I sound like a tone dead, I don't know, like rat or something. You know, just this horrible noise in the mix. So I'm sure God loves it. But yeah, it's been quite an adventure, and I think all of us are in that place of just saying what could be, almost, aren't we? Do you know, like we hark back to what has been, and we're thinking about what's the future going to look like? Like, am I ever going to be allowed to meet you in the street and give you a hug again, Brian?
Yeah.
I hope so. Do you know? Maybe you don't, but
No, I know you're famous for your hugs, and you give brilliant hugs. So you know that'd be amazing. But that's just wonderful what you're sharing, and in terms of like how the church has changed and adapted so quickly. And of course, we're each and every one of us learning on our feet. How have you found, like across Scotland, churches and how they've reacted in different ways, and how have you been able to encourage them and see them take on what you've maybe shared with them and your team?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So I sit in this kind of position where I get a kind of crow's nest view of everything that's happening around the country, and there's been such a mix of things. You know, you've got like Pollock Baptist Church has fed 150,000 people, or they put out 150,000 meals during lockdown. You know, and that's just like an amazing servant-hearted approach to we just need to be here for people right now. And then you've got you know, other churches which have switched over to online and really been driving forward there. You know, P's and G's in Edinburgh have had people come to faith online and have never been in a church building before. So actually they came to their first ever service just before Christmas, you know, when we were allowed to go around. So these people, they've only ever met online, which is just incredible. And I think for lots of us, there's been a kind of a real mix of blessings and buffetings when it comes to church. But unfortunately for some people, it's almost like they've just hit pause on their faith. And it's just like they've kind of said, we haven't been able to adapt to online. We don't necessarily want to recognize that could be a thing. So they've just hit pause. And that's been really difficult. And I think for a lot of churches, they'll really struggle to come back from that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's blown my mind actually how many churches have been planted during this time as well. So I know of 6 friends who are planting churches now. And it's all happened during lockdown. And you're kind of like, what is God doing here? You know, it's like this kind of almost like trimming at one side and then this blossoming growth at the other. And yeah, I'm just eager to see what the rest of this looks like and how God's going to unpack that and see the kingdom just explode in a new way.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing to hear that people coming to faith and they've not stepped inside a church building. And I guess a year ago, that would feel, I guess, somewhat uncomfortable for, I don't want to say the vast majority, but I guess most of us. But do you think, though, when things get back to normal, that folk will come back to church, or will they just stay at home like they've got used to doing?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with a terribly missional principle here, Brian, and say it might be a bit of a both and rather than a first then. I think we'll see lots of people come back. Like, I am dying to get back in the room with people and just, you know, just be family and hang out and sing and do all the stuff we love doing. Like, I can't wait to lay hands on somebody to pray for them. Like, my wife's getting sick of me praying for her, do you know? Like, so I just think, you know, like all of that stuff we're just hungry for. But I think there will be some people that we just won't see again. I think there'll be some people we just don't connect. And equally, I think we'll see a lot of people who will make online church their first and foremost. You know, I think there's been a real rethink of what church means, away from just a Sunday to be in this lifestyle, which is what we've always known. But actually, how has that affected us? And you know, I've been speaking to some friends in New Zealand who dealt with the whole COVID thing very differently. And what they've seen in church is they've seen a massive return of young people, young families, young couples, like huge amounts, and loads of old folk. The bit that's been missing is that kind of 40 to 60 part, which is really, really interesting, because that would largely be the biggest church demographic in Scotland.
Yeah.
So who knows what the future looks like, my friend, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fascinating. If you were to take maybe one or two encouragements from throughout lockdown, things that you've learned and things that have really helped you, what would they be? And that would maybe encourage us too as a church.
Yeah, don't turn your back on the 2-year-old with Play-Doh is a fundamental one. I'm still trying to get that out the couch. I think for me, it's really came down to just pressing into him and actually just finding a new way of connecting. So actually, I love worship. Like, I love singing and worship. I love being a part of that. But for me, that's really, really hard to do in the house, because I want to do it corporately. Like, I've only ever known how to do it corporately. So I've just found new ways of doing that. So I've started like just listening to some like really, really good worship music and going for a walk, and actually just making that part of my routine, and just saying, God, I am here. I'm going out to do this. It's just an act. Like, I'm doing this. I think I've actually switched back to using a paper Bible, which for some people might not seem that controversial, but actually just having a tangible word of God in my hand rather than a tablet. And you know, we're on screens all the time, so just having that tactile things, it just helps me feel that like there's more to this than just a swipe, do you know? And I think my final kind of thing is that I've really, really made time to enjoy the little things. So actually just enjoying sitting on the couch, not feeling guilty about being in the house and having another chocolate biscuit. Like, within reason. I'm not saying we should go and raid the cupboards, Brian. Do you know what I mean? But actually, like, just being okay with that, being okay that I've spent loads of time with my family. Like, why did I feel guilty about that before? You know, like, oh, I had this work to do, I've got to do this. And especially in ministry jobs, you know, you get caught up in that. And actually, I've loved this time with my kids. It's been a nightmare at times. Like, I've crawled the wall and I would have done anything to escape. But at the same time, I'm never going to get an opportunity like that. Like, which parents have had time to just sit in their house for a year with their kids? Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, that's an amazing way to finish off our time. I mean, thank you so much for joining us, Des. And just, I love your heart for the local church and the wider church and all that you bring. And when I heard that you were when you got the role at Alpha, the director at Alpha Scotland. I was just so delighted. I thought, what a superb appointment. And you've recently as well, you've been granted a promotion.
Yeah. So I've always been involved in youth work, and I've been doing youth work in support of a lot of things in Europe the last couple of years. So I'm now the Europe, Middle East, North Africa Youth Alpha Ambassador.
Brilliant. And is there anything we can pray for you specifically for at the moment and then going forward this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're expecting our third child. Definitely some prayer for that. But actually, do you know, the one prayer that I would just ask you to pray for us is that we just continue to see favour and breakthrough. Like, those are the things that keep Alpha going, you know, God's favour upon it. And actually that's what keeps me going, because I'm energized by seeing people come to faith. And, you know, what more could we want than that? Like, you know, it's the thing that we live for, isn't it? You know, so yeah, just pray for breakthrough and favour. We'd love that.
Brilliant. Thanks so much again, Des. I just love your encouragement and all that you bring and your heart for people. And yeah, just great. And thanks for taking the time out today. Really appreciate it.
Mate, always a pleasure. I absolutely love you guys. I really want to come back to the island. I didn't spend enough time there the last time, so we need to do that as soon as I can. So that'd be great.
We'd love to see you. Thanks very much.
Amazing. Cheers, mate. Bye.